So, of course, we have been with you every single day for the last 76 days. This is our 77th show, which is super exciting. And today it is going to be something a little bit different. So, as some of you guys who come to us regularly may know, this is the first time we are going to be having a guest on the show. And our guest today is Dr. Gemma Newman. So let me just make sure that we've got our live up here on our Facebook page and also say hello to you guys. There I am. There I am. Okay. So it's good that we are the right way around today. That's always a great start. Do say hello if you have come into the room. Colleen, good morning, good morning. She says that the audio is very low, so let me just see if we can sort that out a bit. There we go. Can you hear me now? Good. Okay, right. Okay, good morning to you, Colleen, Gloria, Paul, 3 other people. It's not telling me who. Oh, I can see that Annie is with us today. Good morning. We've got Karen as well. Okay, so I'm glad that you guys can hear me now. Emma, good morning. Anna, Fabiola, Sue. There we go. Doug, thank you for joining us again. Okay, right. Okay, so as I was saying, today is a very, very special show because we are welcoming our first guest onto the show. So Dr. Gemma Newman, I met her I think a couple of years ago, and she actually helped me understand nutrition, which is quite amazing because I've always thought of myself as more of a creative person, anything science-based, just literally goes over my head. But when I heard her talk at VegFest, she was so engaging and made me really, really understand vegan nutrition. And I think that that's something that all of us could really do with, because you tell someone that you're vegan and they expect you to know everything about nutrition all of a sudden. And it's quite a tall order. It is quite a tall order. So yeah, and also being a chef as well, the amount of nutrition questions I get, and I have to say to people I'm not a nutritionist, but go and ask Gemma. That's what I usually say, and that's what I usually say on the show, which a lot of you guys will know. Okay, so just to mention that if you guys want to connect with Gemma, she does have her website, so you'll be able to see that now. So that's gemmanewman.com. So do check that out after the show. And of course, she is really, really active on Instagram as well, so that's another thing that you can check out and connect with her on there. She does lots of Insta stories telling you about different bits of vegan nutrition. Okay, so just one word of warning, guys. Not entirely sure about how the audio is going to cope with this. There might be a little bit of feedback, so please do let me know if that happens, and we'll see if we can sort it out. So the deal is today that Gemma's going to tell us a little bit about herself and what she does, and then we're going to go through this lovely array of my favourite ingredients. And just talk about the nutrition of them, and then we're going to hand over to you guys for a Q&A. So please do ask any questions that you have about vegan food, vegan nutrition, maybe things that people have asked you, all those things that you have wondered about. It's a really, really great opportunity for you guys to get advice from somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. And I'm really, really hot on this with veganism, because I think that there is so much information out there, but not necessarily good information. So you need to know where to get good information from, particularly when it comes to nutrition. Okay, so I've talked enough, so I'm going to hand over to Gemma now. Gemma, welcome to the show.
Hello, Dave. Thank you for having me. This is really exciting. And may I say how impressed I am with your technological skills, the way you just so seamlessly pop up websites and green into 2 cameras. It's amazing.
Okay, so if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, Gemma.
Right, so as Dave has so kindly said, I am a GP, and I have been passionate about plant-based nutrition for a long time, and I've been talking publicly about plant-based nutrition probably, 3 years or so. And I've been a GP for 16 years, which is a really long time. And I just love seeing patients. I love getting to know them, love getting to know their families. And for me, plant-based nutrition is one of many tools that I like to use to help people come to better health and to help empower them to make choices that will hopefully give them longevity and good health for the long term. So that's something that I absolutely love to share with my patients. And as you've so eloquently said, on my website and on Instagram and on Facebook, actually, I don't have as many followers on Facebook, but I do have a Facebook page. So if anybody's watching the live here on Facebook and wants to follow my Facebook page, it's just Dr. Gemma Newman rather than Plant Power Doctor. But yeah, it's something I'm so passionate about. Not just helping vegan people understand nutrition, but also helping anybody who hasn't even thought about plant-based nutrition to eat more vegetables, eat more fruits, eat more whole grains, eat more legumes, and hopefully live longer, happier lives.
Mm-hmm. And when did you become vegan?
When was it? Maybe about 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago. I've been researching it for a long time before, but it was all my own sort of, oh, can I do it? Will I be ostracized from going out to dinner parties? You know, like, can I, you know, it's kind of like the human struggle with now versus forever, I think, for a long time. So I've been doing a lot of research before that, but it was taking that leap, that emotional leap that I think many people struggle with, that took me a little bit longer than it should have done.
Yeah. And what helped you to make that change?
Well, it started out. When I understood more about the nutrition, and about. So my husband was running the London Marathon, and he was getting a lot of injuries and inflammation, and then he decided to try and do what some of the ultra runners do, and he read Born to Run and by Scott Jurek, and Finding Ultra by Rich Roll, and he read Brendan Brazier's book Thrive, and he thought, oh, all these people, they all eat plant-based, maybe I should give that a go. And I started to really delve into the literature then, because I thought, well, you know, why would these sports books say it's a good idea if there was an issue with it? Like, what's going on? And it kind of it sort of contradicted a lot of the things that I had assumed just through living a life in society. And it's not something that I was really hot on in medical school. In medical school, we really focused a lot more on pathology and nutritional deficiency and you know, chronic diseases that you're going to try and manage, but not necessarily peak performance or indeed the intricacies of nutrition. So that's something that I became really passionate about from there. And also, you know, with my own life and my own body, in the past, I've been able to get to a healthy weight and feel good using a variety of different ways of eating. But it was only through plant-based nutrition that I was able to bring my cholesterol down, which is an important risk factor because I have a strong family history of heart disease. And I didn't want to have to go down the same route that my father and my grandfather did, and also a family history of cancer. So our top two killers in the Western world, heart disease and cancer, they run in my family too. So on a personal level, it was important for me to make some changes. And then the magic really started to happen when I developed confidence to share this with my patients. You know, people having a drop in their blood pressure, being able to reduce their medications carefully, reducing their period pains, reducing their chronic kidney disease, diverticulitis, recurrent abscesses, mood improvements, you know, all sorts of things. So it was a combination, but yeah, my passion has just grown over time.
Yeah, and I saw that you have on your website a lovely quote by Desmond Tutu.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I can't remember that off the top of my head. I hate to put you on the spot, but can you tell us what that is?
I mean, years in medicine, I always knew I wanted to be a GP, but it was becoming increasingly difficult because I felt that I was just trying to patch up wounds rather than actually helping people get to the root cause of the problem. And the Desmond Tutu quote is saying, rather than just pulling people out of the river, it's important to go upstream and figure out why it is they kept falling in. And he's talking about that in relation to people's spiritual journeys and suffering. But I also apply that to my practice and how I see people making their food decisions and their life decisions. and how that can be infinitely improved just by using nutrition, movement, sleep, and psychological techniques. But for me, plant-based nutrition seems to tick all the boxes for personal health, planetary health, and also for widening the circle of compassion.
Yeah, that's a lovely way to put it. And I think that's probably something that definitely resonated with me, because, you know, as a chef, so many people would say to me, well, don't you want to have a restaurant? And I was like, well, you know, if I have a restaurant and I'm feeding one person one meal of vegan food, whereas if I teach them to cook, then, you know, you're giving them like so much more, and you're giving them the ability to make like a positive change in their life. Okay, so
oh my goodness, there'll be lots more people cooking now, won't there?
Yeah. Yeah, well, a lot of people have been cooking on our show as well. We've been doing cook along, so people have been cooking live on the show as well, which has been amazing. We're going to come over here to our
just looking at, I'm just trying to get my head around both things, and I can see there are so many people joining us and making comments as well. I love everybody.
Yeah, we have a lot of regulars coming back to us as well, and I think maybe a few new people have popped in as well, which is lovely to see. And you know, you're welcome to have a look at the questions and see if there's anything that you want to comment on there. But we can definitely do more of a Q&A later on. So
it's also doing little subtitles for me, which is really fun.
Yeah, it doesn't always get them right though. But yeah, it does help some people. Okay, so let's come over to our goodies over here. So I wanted to chat to you about, so these are a lot of my favorite ingredients, and I kind of like generally know that they're good, but I don't necessarily know any specifics about them. So we have our chard here that was from Riverford, so it's organic as well. So actually that was one question that I had for you, because you know I try to eat organic as much as I can, and is there any benefit in that?
Yeah, so I've got a lot of opinions on organic versus non-organic, and it really depends on the context. I would say overall it's definitely a much better choice, because you're not using excess pesticides, and pesticides are they're detrimental to our gut lining, they're detrimental to the microbiome within us, which we can talk more about, but also they're detrimental to insect populations, which is important for pollinators and things like that. So it's definitely a good idea to veer more towards organic than non-organic. However, I would say that the most important thing for the future of agriculture is actually no-till regenerative agriculture, where you're avoiding the use of tillage, so that you're able to reduce the disruption of the earthworms and the fungal networks, the mycorrhizae in the soil, which help to retain moisture from rain, rather than getting all the topsoil washing away with each rainfall. So that's sort of getting more into the specifics of how you actually produce the food, but also looking at the medical aspect of it. You know, there is some evidence that organic food may be more beneficial. But I also want to highlight that most of the epidemiological studies, the studies of people over time and what they eat, show that vegetables and fruits are beneficial regardless of whether they're organic or not. So you know, a lot of the data we have on the benefits of plant-based nutrition comes from people who haven't necessarily eaten organic produce. They've just eaten what they can get from wherever they live. So that's an important point to make. There is some limited research to suggest that heavy pesticide exposure has a link to B-cell lymphomas, especially, but may also be linked to other forms of cancer. There is some other conflicting evidence to suggest that it's not that harmful actually, and that the levels that we eat may be within a healthy and safe range. But my personal opinion is that if you can afford to buy organic and it's easy for you to do so, then it's worth doing, not only for yourself, but for looking into the future of agriculture as well. If you can look into people that are doing no-till, conservation agriculture, all the better. However, if you are not somebody that can think too much about those things because they've got enough on their plate, then just make sure you get all your fruits and your veggies as much as you can. There is a list from an American group called the Environmental Working Group, EWG, and they talk about the fruits and the vegetables that absorb less pesticides that you might want to consider getting non-organic if you can't afford to buy everything organic. And they change, I think, year on year, depending on the pesticide levels in each different food product. But essentially, what you're looking for is if you can peel something, then it tends to be a much better bet to get non-organic. Whereas if you've got something that absorbs everything, like berries, it may be better to go for organic options as a rule. So things like berries and apples and potatoes, better to get organic, and things like mangoes, bananas, avocados, maybe not so important, as an example. Mm-hmm. So there's it's quite a big discussion.
Yeah. It is. So do you think that with my rainbow chard, would it be better to get? I guess it would be better to get the rainbow chard as organic.
Yes, I would say that. And the fact that you're getting an organic veg box is just fantastic, because it's a way of supporting organic farmers, and farmers are our superheroes. Like, it's so hard to produce food. It is just ridiculously hard. And I think many of us can sort of say, oh yes, you have to, get everything organic, and we sort of think maybe even better to grow your own. But then when you start to try and grow your own, you realize, oh, this is really tough. Yeah. Like, this is a really difficult thing to do. So supporting our farmers is just crucial. And yeah, if you can support local people doing good, then all the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, like with our chards, what about the nutritional properties of a green like that? Because we all know this thing about, eat your greens, but why?
Yeah, well, there are so many. I mean, greens are packed full of phytonutrients and antioxidants, and Swiss chard in particular is really healthy. I think it's got quite a high calcium content. Now, some greens don't have such bioavailable calcium, is bound to oxalate, so spinach, for example, but I have to say spinach is otherwise really healthy. And in fact, I was speaking to a dietitian about the oxalate, non-oxalate controversy, and she was saying that actually she read a study to suggest that you can absorb just as much calcium from oxalate-rich vegetables, which a lot of studies say you can't. So again, try not to get too caught up in which vegetables have the most calcium and which vegetables have the most bioavailable iron, because they will all contain enough as long as you've got a nice broad amount of the different things. So don't just have spinach, for example. Go for other rich greens, go for cruciferous vegetables. I mean, cruciferous vegetables are just amazing. I would aim to try and have a cruciferous vegetable at least every day if you can, and that would be stuff like broccoli or cauliflower or sprouts or kale, and they've got really bioavailable calcium, they've got sources of iron, they are, as I say, jam-packed full of anti-cancer properties. They've got sulforaphane, which is another special plant compound which helps to reduce cancer risk. I can talk about the hack and hold technique if you like. So if you've got your, if you've got your, say you've got your kale or your broccoli and you're using it for a dish, or whatever you've got there. I couldn't actually see what you've got down there, but you've got some greens. If you chop them up, and then you could just leave them for a bit, about 40 minutes. Then you're going to allow for the enzymic reaction between the cell walls that you've just chopped up, for the production of sulforaphane, which means that you'll be able to get all those anti-cancer benefits even after cooking, because that reaction within the cell walls and the enzymes, the myrosinase enzymes, has occurred already. So if you eat it raw, you chew, and then that enzyme reaction happens in your stomach, so you will get the anti-cancer properties. But if you're planning to cook them, then just chop them up about 40 minutes in advance, and you get the same anti-cancer properties even when it's cooked.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. It's just such a small thing.
It's a small thing that we don't realise, but then when you do realise, it's just, it can make all the difference to the nutritional properties of what you're enjoying. But yes, it's, I mean, the main reason that fruits and vegetables are so powerful is the phytochemicals. And this is interesting because there are so many, we haven't even named them all yet. And they all work in synergy together, which is just fantastic. So us humans, we try to create pills that will, perhaps give you resveratrol, for example, because we know that that's a really good phytonutrient from berries or from chocolate or so on. But actually, you know, it's not going to be as beneficial as taking in the whole vegetable or the whole fruit or the whole berry and mixing them all up to create a really varied plate. So
I think that's a really interesting point to make. Like, I always think that us humans, like, we're pretty stupid, and we think that we have completely fully understood food and nutrition, and actually we haven't. And it's like thinking that, you know, we've went to the moon so we understand the whole universe. We don't. We don't. We just understand a small part of it, and that's it. So it's better to eat, you know, fruits and vegetables rather than just take a multivitamin and think that, you know, you've got everything.
Exactly. It's a bit like chucking all the ingredients together for a cake and saying ta-da, and forgetting, you know, the different constitutional amounts and how you have to cook it and the love that you have to put into it.
Let's come over back to our ingredients. Okay, so we've got a good technique for our chard. So what about this? So a vegan's favourite. So this is our nutritional yeast, also known as Nooch. Does that, I mean, this one has B12 in it already, but apart from that, does it have any health benefits?
Well, I don't actually know. All I know is about the B12 actually. So yes,
okay.
maybe do. I think B12 is a big issue for a lot of vegans if they haven't really looked into it. Hopefully most have. But yeah, Nooch is great because it gives you that sort of nuttiness, that cheesiness without having to have any dairy. And it's a ready-made source of B12. So yeah, I don't actually know much more about the nutritional benefits of Nooch, unfortunately.
Well, so I mean, it's a form of inactive yeast, and actually we've got another yeast extract over here, or another form of yeast. So this is our yeast extract, which some of you guys might know as Marmite. Is this, you know, brown sticky stuff that is really, really savoury. Using it in things that that we want to taste: burgers, chilies, sausages, anything like that. But that's another form of yeast. So does yeast in general have any kind of benefits for us?
Yes, it can do, but it depends. You have to have the right balance. So if you have a lot of prebiotics in our diet, that's very handy, and yeast